Alright, so for today's adventure, I I had a branch that broke off of my willow tree. I say my willow tree. My daughter planted it a few years ago. And I always said one day I'm gonna make some air loft charcoal from this very tree. Well, today's that day. I cut it into pieces short enough to fit into my paint sample retort that you can tell I've used it quite a bit. It's rather old. I'm surprised it's still in one piece. But I cut all of the willow branch pieces short enough to fit in the retort. I'm going to close up the retort. I'm going to set it up on the burner and I'll show you that part of it. So basically making charcoal is a simple process. Been done for, there's no telling how long people have been making charcoal. They found evidence of charcoal from caves that were intentionally made charcoal for making iron and smelting different ores that's thousands of years old. But anyway, you basically create an oxygen poor environment for the wood, and then you heat that vessel until it turns the wood into charcoal. And all of the science behind it I really don't understand. I just know that my little paint sample with a small hole poked in it and the pieces of wood that fit in it with sitting on what everybody in South Louisiana has as a crawfish burner, sitting on that burner, and then I let it go until I don't get any smoke out of the vessel anymore. And I just put it on the heat. I'm not getting any smoke yet. It'll start rising up out of that little hole, and then once all the smoke is gone, I put something on top of that hole to seal it off, and then I let it cool all the way down, and that makes charcoal. This just happens to be willow from a willow tree growing on the edge of my pond. You can see it kind of way back off there in the distance. But that willow charcoal is probably one of the best sources of charcoal to make airloft charcoal to mix up pyrotechnic black powder, gunpowder. So I'm going to let this go until there's no more smoke. And it looks like it's just starting to smoke a little bit, maybe. But I'm going to let it go until there's no more smoke, and then I'll show you the results. Alright, so the smoke is gone. Took it off of the flame. I'll open up the retort. See what I got. Looks like charcoal to me. Alright. I'll put it in the ball mill next. Let's see what it looks like when I get it to air loft. Alright, so it's been in a ball tumbler for 4 or 5 hours now. And you can see it's just starting to get ground down to where you could almost consider it air loft. It's not quite there yet. I might let it go overnight. But you can see it's still kind of mealy, like it's almost damp, if you will. So it's not quite there. But we'll let it go some more, and we'll see how it turns out. Yeah, you can see how it kind of sticks. It sticks to the aluminum. It's almost there. It's just got a moisture content in it that needs to come out. And might do some sifting and let it dry on a flat surface. All right. We'll let you know what the outcome of all of this is. Okay, so after ball milling my charcoal, this is the result. Well, it doesn't really look like air loft from this angle, but it's a very fine powder. And this is made from Willow, which according to all of the research that I've done, and I've actually made black powder before using the recipe that's available all over the internet, so I'm not telling anybody anything new. But everything is done by weight, and it's 75% potassium nitrate, and you can get potassium nitrate at any of the big box stores. It's a stump killer. 75% potassium nitrate, 15% charcoal, and it's always kind of debatable on the third ingredient, but normally it's 10% sulfur. I have made some without the sulfur, and I have made it with sulfur, and they both performed well in my muzzleloading firearms. But either way, the charcoal part of the ingredient is one thing that you have to make yourself, because if you go and get hardwood charcoal, it's not going to be pure enough to blend or absorb the potassium nitrate, which is the oxidizer. So what you're in essence, what you're doing when you combine these ingredients, you have to compress them so that they fully absorb each other and become one. I don't even know how to say the chemical process of it. I just know that it works. But anyway, you compress all of these ingredients after you thoroughly blend, and then wet them out with rubbing alcohol, and then compress them into a puck, and then you have to granulate them through a series of screens to make your different size powders from 4F, 3F, 2F, single F. So it's quite a process, but if you're able to go get a branch out of the yard, cut it up, make it into charcoal, and then go get some stuff off the shelf at the home center and make black powder that actually shoots a bullet out of a muzzle loader. I've used it in my Remington replica pistol. I've used it in a Hawkins replica. I've used it in a 30 caliber, what was called at the time was called a squirrel rifle, but it's black powder muzzle loader. And it worked well in all of those different applications. It worked just as well as GoEx or some of the substitutes, and I really don't like the substitutes. But anyway, this is my black powder. I'm sorry. The base, one of the base ingredients of black powder. And this is what's called air loft charcoal. You see how it's got some moisture content is why it's caking. But if you let it, you kind of shake it up a little bit, it's just fluffy, real fluffy. All right, well, if I ever get the opportunity to blend everything together and start making the powder, I'll show you the results.